After I went blind, my wife pushed her best friend into my room. Then she and her best friend's husband set up a camera to film us. What they didn't know was my sight had come back. I'd been blind for a year, the result of a freak accident. Today, I stumbled and hit my head against the wall, and just like that, the world swam back into focus. My heart hammered against my ribs. I had to tell my wife, Brenda. I pulled the bedroom door open just a crack and froze. Brenda was outside, wrapped in the arms of another man. They were whispering, their faces close, lost in a deep kiss. The evening light was fading, and they were a good 50 feet away, but I could see the total devotion on her face. I didn't recognize the man. I heard Brenda's breathy voice. "Take me home with you." Right now, the man's voice was a low murmur. "Later. Be patient. Not until I can give you the wedding you deserve." He suddenly stiffened, his eyes locking on the crack in the door. He'd seen me. Brenda noticed and whispered, her voice carrying on the still air, "Don't worry. He's blind, and from this far away, he can't see or hear a thing." Losing my sight had sharpened my hearing. I heard every word. Rage, hot and blinding, surged through me. I wanted to storm out there and kill them both. But a cold, hard knot of reason in my gut told me to wait. My face was a mask of indifference. I stared out from the shadows, playing the part of the blind man. I slowly raised my phone, secretly recording the scene, then retreated back into the room as if I'd never been there. A little while later, Brenda came back inside. I kept up the act. She frowned, her voice dripping with disdain. "What are you doing up?" "Admiring the night sky. You can't even see it. You're pathetic. I must have been blind myself to marry a loser like you." The venom in her words was a physical blow. Ever since the accident, she'd become an expert at this, finding fault with everything, her words a constant barrage of mockery and scorn. I had endured it, telling myself she still loved me, that this was just her way of dealing with the stress. Tonight, that illusion shattered, and in its place, a single cold thought took root: revenge. Seeing me silent, Brenda sneered, about to launch into another tirade when a knock echoed through the house. A flicker of excitement crossed her face. She thought her lover had returned. But when she opened the door, her expression soured with disappointment. It was her best friend, Sarah. Sarah hesitated on the doorstep, but Brenda grabbed her arm and pulled her inside. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Sarah's cheeks flush a deep red. Then Brenda pulled out her phone and started typing. She was hiding something, keeping her voice down so I wouldn't hear. I pretended to organize a bookshelf, my eyes fixed on the reflection of her screen in the glass. Brenda typed, "Sarah, you should go to his room tonight. Your husband can't give you a baby, you know? You have to think about your future." Sarah's blush deepened as she typed back, "Would Kyle be okay with that? It's so awkward. And what about you? Won't you be angry?" Brenda's reply was instant. "Why would I be angry? We're best friends. I just want you to be happy." Sarah was still hesitant, but Jason. A smug smile touched Brenda's lips. "He's a blind man. Besides, I haven't let him touch me in a year. Just go in and get in his bed. Nature will take its course." "Okay, but you can't tell my husband." I stare, my mind reeling. What the hell was Brenda playing at? There was no way she would just share her husband. This had to be a trap. I clenched my jaw and, keeping my face blank, walked back to the bedroom. Brenda's phone was on the charger, the screen unlocked. She hadn't bothered to change the passcode in the year since I'd gone blind. She had no fear of me seeing anything. The pinned chat at the top of her messages made my blood run cold. It was a thread between her and the man from outside. His name was Jason Reed, Sarah's husband. Their plan was laid bare in the chat logs. They wanted to get married, which meant they both needed a divorce. So Brenda had concocted a scheme: get Sarah to sleep with me, then film it. With that proof, both I and Sarah would get nothing in the divorce settlements. Then Brenda and Jason would be free to be together, their hands clean. I switched off the phone, my eyes dark. Later that night, I lay in bed, feigning sleep. I saw Sarah tiptoe into the room. In the crack of the doorway, the lens of a phone peeked through. Brenda, ready to capture the evidence. Just as Sarah reached the bed, I sat up abruptly and fumbled my way out of the room. Sarah froze. Outside, I heard Brenda scramble away from the door. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, then returned to the living room, picked up a Braille book, and began to run my fingers over the pages. Brenda's voice was sharp. "You damn blind man. What are you doing reading in the middle of the night?" I offered a small, empty smile. "Well, being blind has its perks. I don't need the lights on. Won't bother you too. You guys get some rest." Brenda looked furious. Sarah just stood there, her face flushed, a thoughtful expression in her eyes. I sat in that living room chair all night. The next morning, after Brenda and Sarah went out for a walk, someone knocked on the door. I checked the peephole. It was him, the man from last night. Sarah's husband, Jason Reed. My fists clenched. The nerve of him showing up at my house. I opened the door, my eyes unfocused, my movements uncertain. Jason smiled. "Kyle, hi. I'm Jason Reed, Sarah's husband. Can we talk?" I fought to keep the rage out of my voice. "About what?" "Brenda and Sarah aren't here." Suddenly, Jason dropped to his knees in front of me. "Kyle, man, I'm begging you. Please help me out. I'm not getting up until you agree." I had no idea what new scheme this was. "Jason, I'm blind. I can't see you kneeling. Get up and talk." He grabbed my leg, his voice thick with fake emotion. "I won't get up until you promise. And I'll make it worth your while." I pulled him to his feet, my touch gentle, my mind racing. "What is it you want?" He laid it on thick, spinning a story about how he'd married into Sarah's wealthy family and had been unable to produce an heir. He claimed the fault was his, a medical issue, and that he was desperate. He said Sarah had a soft spot for me, and that I could fulfill their dream. He swore he wouldn't hold it against me. I almost laughed. Brenda must have told him last night was a bust, so now he was here to turn up the heat. He finished with a heavy sigh. "Kyle, even if you two get together, I won't divorce her. I just want Sarah to have a child, so I can secure my position in the family. I swear, I'll never cause you any trouble." I pretended to think it over. "Let me think about it." He left, clearly unsatisfied. I went straight to Best Buy and bought a few hidden security cameras, then installed them around the house. I'd already put spyware on Brenda's phone. I could see everything. A new message from Jason popped up. "Babe, I just talked to Kyle. I think he's going to go for it. As soon as we have the pictures and video, we can finally be together." Brenda's reply. "I can't stand another day with that blind man. I want to be with you right now, and don't forget what you promised me after we're married." "Jason, tonight's the night. Get them both drinking. It'll happen. And don't worry, is $10 million enough?" I stared at the screen. Sarah's family was one of the wealthiest in the state. Jason, the man who married into money, couldn't have kids and was now asking for my help. Was this a trap or a golden opportunity? That evening, Brenda and Sarah came back with bourbon and takeout. Brenda was unervingly sweet to me. "Honey, you should drink up tonight. I know I've been cold to you lately. I'll make it up to you." Sarah, her cheeks already pink, kept raising her glass to me. But I had palmed a couple of activated charcoal pills an hour earlier. By the end of the meal, Brenda and Sarah were dizzy and slurring their words. I was perfectly sober. I went back to our bedroom. I watched as a stumbling Brenda pushed an equally unsteady Sarah into the room. A wave of heat washed over me. I took a deep breath, walked over to the door, shut it, and flipped the deadbolt. Locked. Sarah's eyes were hazy. She flicked off the light, and in the darkness, I heard the rustle of clothes. My fists clenched. I kept my voice flat, empty. "Sarah, is that you? What's going on?" She froze, her voice a drunken whisper. "Kyle, it's me. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing." I turned away from her. "Tell me what this is about." The truth. Her first words hit me like a physical blow. "Jason and I have been married for years, and he's never touched me." My jaw dropped. That explained why they didn't have kids. It explained why she would agree to this. Listening to her story, the pieces started clicking into place, but the picture they formed was bizarre. Jason had pursued her relentlessly, and she, young and naive, had fallen for him. He willingly married into her family, signing a strict prenup stating he would never touch the family fortune. Their married life was sweet, affectionate, but entirely platonic. He always had an excuse. After 2 years, she was confused and hurt. She'd never been with anyone else and didn't know if this was normal. Then a few months ago, Jason had broken down, sobbing on the floor. He confessed he'd been injured as a child and was impotent. He couldn't give her the life she deserved. Sarah had cried with him, promising she didn't care, that she would stay with him forever. But then Jason started pushing his idea for her to have a child with me. It would give both their families an heir. Sarah refused at first. But between Jason's constant pleading and Brenda's insidious encouragement, and she admitted her own growing affection for me, she finally caved. As I listened, 1,000 questions swirled in my head. If Jason was impotent, what was his relationship with Brenda? What were they really after? Just then, I heard the telltale scrape of a key in the lock. Brenda, frustrated at not getting her video, was letting herself in. I stayed seated on the edge of the bed, a blind man in the dark. Sarah was at the other end, half-dressed. The door swung open silently. 2 figures slipped inside. Brenda, and right behind her, Jason. Sarah's eyes went wide. "Jason, what are you doing here?" Jason raised his phone, the flash going off again and again as he snapped pictures. He was grinning. "You two sleeping together behind my back. I'm going to ruin you." Brenda chimed in, her voice triumphant. "You disgusting blind man, forcing yourself on my best friend. I'm divorcing you, and you'll get nothing." Sarah was frantic. "What are you talking about? You two set this up? Nothing even happened." Jason pointed a finger at her. "You're half naked in his bed. I have pictures. Who do you think they're going to believe?" Brenda's smile was pure venom. "When you're caught like this, it doesn't matter if it's true. The damage is done." Sarah's face was ashen. She stared at Jason in disbelief. "Why? Why would you do this to me? I love you." A wild, unhinged look came over Jason's face. "Oh, I know you love me. And I love you too. But I had no choice. It's all karma. Payback. I'm gonna make your whole family wish they were dead." Now, it was Brenda's turn to be stunned. "Jason, what are you talking about? The plan was to get the pictures, get divorced, and then we get married. What's this about payback? What about the young family?" Jason scoffed. "Marry you? You're a cheating tramp. You're the kind of woman I despise most in this world. You can all go to hell." Brenda looked like she'd been slapped. She stared at him, whispering, "You said you loved me, that you wanted to marry me. It was all a lie." Jason was busy scrolling through the photos on his phone. "You're an idiot. I was just using you. A woman who would betray her husband like that. What man in his right mind would want you?" Brenda swayed and collapsed onto the floor, her eyes vacant. I had seen it all. I slowly started to clap. That was quite a performance. "Really, bravo. What's the next act?" I stood up, walked over to the nightstand, poured a glass of water, and took a sip. I gestured toward Brenda with the glass. "My dear wife, what are you doing on the floor? Get up. Your makeup is a mess. No one's going to want you now." All 3 of them froze, staring at me. Brenda scrambled to her feet. She waved a hand in front of my face. I snatched it out of the air. "What is it, honey?" I said, tilting my head. "Showing me your new manicure." She ripped her hand away, stumbling back in terror. You're not blind. You can see." I shrugged. "Yeah, I can. Surprise. So about that divorce." Brenda shot a panicked look at Jason. I casually picked up the baseball bat I kept by the bed, weighing it in my hand. Jason took a step back, his eyes darting around the room. "Look, Kyle, I never meant to drag you into this. You were just a means to an end. I have the pictures now. Once I release them, I'll give you a cut. We can call it even." Brenda found her voice again. "So what if you can see? Once we post these pictures, your reputation is finished. You'll be ruined, and I'll get everything in the divorce." I smiled and pointed to the tiny, blinking red light of the camera I'd hidden on the bookshelf. "Your pictures don't tell the whole story. Mine, on the other hand, recorded everything, including your little text conversations, which I also have. Would you like to see?" I tossed my phone to Brenda. She scrolled through it, her face turning white. In a panic, she started deleting the video and the chat logs. I laughed. "Already saved to my secure cloud storage. You don't have the password." Jason looked like he was going to be sick. He turned desperately to Sarah. "Sarah, baby, it was all a misunderstanding, a joke. Don't be mad." Sarah looked at him, her arms wrapped around herself, her voice like ice. "Get out." But there was nowhere to go. The police were already at the door. As the officers entered, Jason and Brenda stared in shock. I spoke calmly. "Officer, I'd like to report a case of breaking and entering, harassment, and an attempt to blackmail me. I have video evidence right here." Jason was speechless. Brenda, however, went berserk, trying to block the officers. "This is my house. I invited him here. He didn't do anything wrong. You can't take him." After a few warnings, the police took her too. Sarah looked at me, lost. "What do we do now?" I watched them being led away. Brenda is a fool. Jason is a madman. What I want to know is why he's doing this. Sarah looked up, her voice a whisper. He wanted revenge on my family. Maybe my mother knows why. Suddenly, she froze, realizing she was still half-dressed. She turned away, her face burning. I cleared my throat and turned around, giving her some privacy. Sarah took me to her family home, a sprawling estate on the outskirts of Seattle. The moment I saw her mother, my world tilted on its axis. A jolt went through me, sharp and electric. Her mother's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Sarah, isn't this your friend's husband? I thought he was blind. What's going on so late? I took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing myself back into character. Ma'am, I'm so sorry to disturb you this late. Even though I can't see you, I can tell you must be a very kind and beautiful person. Sarah shot me a confused look, but I gave her a subtle shake of my head, a silent command to play along. Her mother's gaze was sharp, boring into me for a long moment before she turned to Sarah. With a broken voice, Sarah told her everything that had happened, finishing with the question that haunted us both. Mom, why would Jason want revenge? Did our family ever do something to him? Her mother seemed to drift into thought. Finally, she waved a dismissive hand. I can't recall anything. Forget it. Just divorce him. I never thought he was good enough for you anyway. Let's just put this all behind us. Sarah looked to me for guidance. I was fighting a tidal wave of emotions, a storm threatening to break loose inside me. I kept my voice steady. You should listen to your mother. I should be going. I fumbled for the railing, playing the blind man, and slowly made my way out of that mansion. I could feel a pair of eyes on my back the entire time, eyes filled with a terror and rage that I knew all too well. Sarah's mother. Jason's mother-in-law. She was my mother. It was her. I was sure of it. I would know that face anywhere. It was burned into my memory. 20 years ago, when I was only 5 years old, she had abandoned me. Even though I was young, I could never forget her face, twisted with tears. I could never forget the words she said. Son, Mommy has to do this. Don't blame me. One day, I'll come back and give you the good life. Then she was gone. I ended up wandering the streets before being sent to a group home. I spent my childhood hungry, bullied, and waiting. Every day, I waited for my mother to come back for me. She never did. I left as soon as I could, got a job, and buried the resentment and the longing deep inside. I worked hard, saved up, and eventually met Brenda. I scraped together everything I had to marry her, thinking my life was finally starting. Then, a year ago, right after Brenda became friends with Sarah, I went blind overnight. My world collapsed. From that day on, Brenda grew colder, her daily taunts a constant reminder of my helplessness. It was Sarah who would often visit, sitting with me, talking, offering a small measure of comfort in the darkness. Until 2 days ago, when my sight returned. Until I discovered the truth about Brenda and Jason. And until tonight, when I saw my mother again. The woman who abandoned me. The woman who promised me the good life. Why was she Sarah's mother? And why, when she clearly recognized me, did she pretend I was a stranger? My mind was a chaotic mess of questions. I got home and found Brenda there. She was wearing an apron, stirring a pot on the stove. She looked like the perfect wife. In all our years of marriage, I had never once let her cook or do laundry. Even after I went blind, I taught myself to manage on my own so I wouldn't be a burden. To see her like this was surreal. It was wrong. She saw me and immediately knelt down to get my slippers. Honey, you're back, she cooed. I made you a late-night snack. Come and try it. I laughed, a cold, empty sound. I think I'll pass. I'm not in the mood to be poisoned. Pack your things. We're getting a divorce first thing in the morning. She threw her arms around my legs, sobbing. No, honey, please. I can't live without you. I love you. Forgive me. I didn't do anything to betray you. I pulled out my phone and showed her the video of her and Jason kissing. The color drained from her face. I tilted my head. See, I accidentally recorded this. I also have your chat logs. And the security cameras have video of you two trying to frame me. So, give me one good reason why we shouldn't get divorced. If you don't love me anymore, you should have just let me go. She just kept shaking her head, babbling. It was an act, honey, all of it. He said if he divorced Sarah, he'd get a huge settlement, and we could use that money to fix your eyes. I did it for you. We never went all the way, I swear. I'm still clean. I narrow my eyes. Your texts tell a different story. And the only reason you didn't go all the way is because Jason couldn't. He's impotent. Sarah told me herself. Brenda stared at me, dumbfounded. No, that's impossible. Oh, God. But, honey, I really was trying to get the money for your surgery. I love you. I pulled away from her, walked into the bedroom, and shut the door, leaving her wailing on the living room floor. I took a deep breath. Tomorrow, I needed to see Jason. I had to know why he hated the young family so much. But the next morning, on my way to the county jail, I got a call from Sarah. The news she delivered sent a chill down my spine. Jason was dead. He'd had a massive heart attack on the way to the hospital for a routine medical check before being processed into jail. It was too sudden, too convenient. Sarah was a wreck. She had loved Jason, and she couldn't understand why he would betray her. He had no other family, so as his legal wife, she was responsible for his arrangements. I helped her with the grim paperwork, then took her home. We walked into my house to find Brenda packing a suitcase, her head bowed, sniffling quietly. My voice was flat. Jason's dead. Brenda's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. Then her expression hardened into a snarl. Good. He deserved it. He lied to me. She broke down then, telling me the whole story of how she and Jason got involved. A year ago, she'd met Sarah at a charity event, and they'd quickly become close. Soon after, my blindness struck. They'd gone to specialist after specialist, all of them saying there was no treatment available in the U.S. The only option was an experimental procedure overseas, costing upwards of $10 million. Brenda was desperate and overwhelmed, and her temper grew shorter and shorter. That's when Jason made his move. He was a constant, comforting presence, listening to her worries, taking her out to clear her head. He wore down. A few months ago, he confessed his love for her and laid out his plan. If she could help him set me up with Sarah, they could both get divorced, he would get a massive settlement, and he would give her $10 million to pay for my surgery. Brenda was torn. Part of her wanted the money from me, and part of her was swept up in the fantasy of a new life with Jason. So she agreed. She started pushing Sarah towards me, playing on Sarah's sympathy and kindness. And so the whole sordid mess began. In the end, I was weak, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face. But I never crossed the final line. It was my fault. I'll agree to the divorce. I just wanted to fix your eyes, but I let his sweet talk poison my mind. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I looked at Brenda, the woman I had loved for years, and felt nothing. Just a vast emptiness where my feelings for her used to be. She looked over at Sarah. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I lied to you, and I betrayed our friendship. You were always so kind and trusting. I took advantage of that. Sarah just stared at her, her expression a mixture of anger and confusion. Brenda stood up and wiped her eyes. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something. Kyle, Jason gave me something to hold on to. He said if anything ever happened to him, I should give it to you. I almost forgot. She blushed. I kept it hidden on me, so you wouldn't find it. Of course you did. I thought, the bitterness rising in my throat. She handed me a flash drive. The three of us gathered around my laptop as I plugged it in. There was only one file, a video of Jason sitting in a chair, speaking to the camera. His first words sent a shockwave through the room. Kyle, if you're watching this, I'm probably already dead. He gave a sad smile and began his story. He was born into a wealthy family, but when he was 3, his mother died. His father remarried a woman who became his wicked stepmother. She abused him relentlessly, a secret torment his workaholic father never saw. One day, she took him for a walk along the river and pushed him in, leaving him for dead. But he survived. A fisherman pulled him from the water downstream. Terrified of his stepmother, he never went back. He grew up wanting revenge, but lacked the power and resources. So he waited and he planned. Eventually, he found his opening. He targeted Sarah, marrying her to get close to the woman who had tried to kill him. His stepmother, Sarah's mother, my mother. Last year, while tailing her, Jason witnessed her paying someone to put something in my drink. The very next day, I went blind. That's when Jason started investigating me. He laughed, a hollow, broken sound. Can you believe it, Kyle? My stepmother is your biological mother. The same woman who abandoned you as a child came back 20 years later to poison you. Behind me, I could hear Brenda and Sarah's sharp intakes of breath. The plot was so twisted it felt like something out of a cheap thriller. Jason continued, his words weaving a dark tapestry. My mother, Eleanor, had worked in a nightclub. She got pregnant with me, but had no idea who my father was. She struggled to raise me until she met Sarah's father, Mr. Young. She saw her ticket to the good life, but she couldn't bring a child into a wealthy marriage, so she abandoned me. Later, she arranged for the Young family's real son, Jason, to have his accident, then gave birth to Sarah, cementing her place in the family. Kyle, Jason said, his voice filled with regret. We're two sides of the same coin. I never should have dragged you into this, but I was desperate. I needed a way to bring her down. His plan was diabolical. A scandal involving her biological son and her daughter would create a media frenzy, tank the company's stock, and expose all the skeletons in the family closet. It was his only shot at justice. Sarah and I looked at each other, the same horrified understanding in our eyes. If I hadn't gotten my sight back, if I had given in to temptation that night, his plan would have worked perfectly. Jason's face softened. The reason Eleanor never recognized me is because I had subtle plastic surgery before I met Sarah. If I'm dead, she's the one who did it. He paused, his voice cracking. The person I'm most sorry for is Sarah. I used her, but I also came to love her. I could never be a real husband to her. Please, protect her for me. She's a good person. She deserves to be happy. The video ended. The room was silent, filled only with the sound of our breathing. Finally, Sarah spoke, her voice raw. So the man I loved was a liar, and my mother is a monster. My whole life is a lie. She looked at me, her eyes filled with confusion. But why would she blind you? Just so you wouldn't recognize her. An idea sparked in my mind. When did your father die? 3 months ago, she answered quietly. It all clicked into place. The truth was slowly coming into focus. Sarah suddenly sat up straight. My father. He left me a safe deposit box before he died. The key is in his desk. He said only I would know the combination. I haven't looked at it yet. Maybe there's something in there. We went to the bank. Inside the box was a burner phone and a thick manila envelope. The phone was filled with audio recordings. Her father had bugged their entire mansion. Every conversation between him and Eleanor was there. We played the last one. Eleanor's voice was cold. I still don't understand why you're leaving the entire estate to Sarah. Why do I get nothing? Mr. Young's voice was a harsh rasp. Don't play dumb. I know what happened to my son. I just could never prove it. My fortune goes to Sarah, and it's locked in a trust for 10 years. Even if you kill her, you won't see a dime. Eleanor laughed, a chilling, carefree sound. Oh, it'll all be mine eventually. She's so sweet and naive. She'll do whatever I say. Then Mr. Young's voice choked with panic. What did you put in my tea, you bitch? You're finally making your move. There was a crash, the sound of a body hitting the floor. Eleanor's voice was a triumphant whisper. For money, I got rid of my own son. I even blinded him. Did you really think you were any different? Rest in peace, darling. Bitch, I'll haunt you from the grave. The recording ended. Sarah and I stared at each other, horrified. Her father had been murdered. She tore open the envelope. Inside were documents confirming that all shares of the Young Corporation belonged to her. She collapsed into my arms, sobbing. We took the recordings to the police. It was all they needed. They arrested Eleanor for the murder of her husband. The investigation quickly uncovered the hitman she hired to poison Jason. And from there, they unraveled the plot to have me blinded. In the chaotic months that followed, Sarah and I worked together, a united front to stabilize the family company. 3 months later, Eleanor was sentenced to death. We visited her one last time before the execution. She looked at me with a soft, maternal smile that made my skin crawl. Her first words made no sense. My good son, I didn't lie. I told you I'd give you the good life. I frowned. What are you talking about? Why did you have me blinded? She sighed, as if explaining something to a small child. When I met Sarah's father, you were a liability. So I left you. I thought my life was set. Then Brenda came along. The moment Sarah brought her home, I knew it was over. If you saw me, you would recognize me. Your father was still alive then. He would have destroyed me if he found out I had a son. So I had to take away your sight. The poison was only temporary, you know. It was designed to wear off after a year. I listened silently. It explained why my vision had returned so suddenly. She looked from me to Sarah. Sarah, You're too kind for this world. I never meant to hurt you. It's all just cause and effect. After I'm gone, you two need to take care of each other. Build the company. Live your lives." We looked at each other, bewildered by her strange parting words. As she turned to leave, I thought I saw a tear slip from the corner of her eye. I couldn't tell if it was for us or for herself. After leaving the prison, I went to the waterfront. It was a place I used to go when I was blind, to listen to the waves and sort through the darkness in my head. A figure appeared beside me. It was Brenda. "It turns out I was the one who was truly blind," she said softly. "I had you, and I threw you away." I sighed, watching the water. "You were under a lot of pressure. He manipulated you, and you really did want the money to help me. I don't hate you. We just weren't meant to be." She nodded and pulled out our marriage certificate. "Got time to make it official." I looked out at the tide coming in. "Yeah, it's time." A month later, Eleanor was executed. The same day, Brenda left the city. She sent me a long text. "Let me call you my husband one last time. I'm sorry. Please take care of yourself. I'm going to retreat in the mountains to find myself. Think of me sometime." That night, Sarah and I were making dinner at her house. "Hey, where's the vinegar?" she called out. "In the cabinet. Genius." I yelled back. "Hey, I think I made this too salty." "It's fine. I'll just eat more rice." The doorbell rang. It was a courier with a padded envelope. I opened it, my brow furrowed. The first thing I saw was a stack of photographs. Photos of me, from my entire life. In the group home, at school, and my first job. All candid shots, taken from a distance. My heart began to pound. Who had been watching me all these years? Beneath the photos were bank statements. Records of a few key people who had loaned me money or given me a break when I needed it most. But the statements showed that before they helped me, they had first received an anonymous wire transfer for the exact same amount. Someone had been helping me from the shadows my whole life. The last document was a DNA test. I stared at the results, my jaw hanging open. It stated, in black and white, that Sarah Young shared no genetic material with either Eleanor Vance or the late Mr. Young. On the back of the report, a single, handwritten sentence. "Son, Sarah was adopted. I raised her to be your wife. I told you you'd have a good life. I kept my promise." I stood there, stunned, as the report slipped from my fingers and fluttered to the floor.